Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 6 of a Not to Talk About podcast. Again, as always, me and Tom are back to ramble on about another, sadly, Notts defeat. But first of all, Tom, how are you, brother?
Yeah, no, I'm really good, mate. Thank you. I say I'm really good. Obviously, not feeling too amazing after Friday, but yeah, no, I'm all right. How are you?
Pretty much in the same boat, mate. Like, obviously, it'd be nice to start winning football games at some point this year, but we'll get on to that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm decent, mate. But let's get straight into it. Obviously, Notts 1, Gillingham 3. In my opinion, what was one of the worst, if not the worst, performances of the season. Obviously, we've seen a few bad ones so far. But obviously, first and foremost, your initial reaction.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's up there. I think the other one you can point out is Mansfield at home, and it felt like that game. Like weirdly felt a lot like that game. Like we took the lead early on. Dan Crowley scored early, like he did against Mansfield, and then after that goal, we just sort of took our foot off the gas. And look, they deserve. I think no one can argue they deserved all 3 points. They did well. They stuck to their game plan, took their chances when they came. But yeah, my initial thought is that like it's not great, and there are problems. Like it's the last 15 games, we picked up 14 points, I think, which is just a crazy statistic. Like that is just not good. And we've played 30 games this season, so that's half the season. The second half of our season so far has been like bottom 7 or 8 form. So there are problems. Like let's not pretend there's not. We're obviously all extremely grateful to be in the Football League again, but I don't think the fact that we've just been promoted and we should be grateful to be back, I don't think that means we also shouldn't be worried that in the last 15 games we're averaging less than a point a game, which like is just not good enough, is it?
No, exactly. I'm glad you said that as well because for me, like obviously, I see a lot of the argument online where it's our first season back. We would have took mid-table. I would have took that at the start of the season if mid-table was where we were for the majority of it. The difference is we've spent some of the season already top of the table, top three playoffs, and now we're in 10th. Like personally, for a newly promoted side, your season should be progressively better, not being progressively worse. Like we didn't get into the playoff by fluke. At the end of the day, we were there because we deserved to be there. We were winning games, playing well. Yes, okay, injuries. We had the opportunity to recruit. I think we did fairly well, although we're still yet to see some of them. But again, what I will say is about the January recruitment. What we need fixing isn't going to be a January fix. Like we need starting defenders. Yes, of course we do. Difference is who's going to sell us that in January? Nobody, because if they're good enough to play, they'd already be in different teams. So that's the way I've seen it. What we need as fixing was never going to sort out in January. Um, and yeah, I feel like you are right. There is a right to be worried now because yeah, okay, we was coming into a difficult run, fixtures against difficult teams, but realistically, we had to perform better than we did. I think we spoke about it at some point. We said 10 points out of what was it, 15 would have been okay. We've took one, so it's just that's the thing. It isn't good enough. Like there's no beating around the bush. It isn't good enough. I knew this episode already was. We knew coming onto this episode that we was going to be talking about a lot of negatives, but you can't hide from these facts. We have quietly been in relegation form. The start of the season saved us. If we didn't have the start to the season we had, and then we went on this form, we'd have been a lot. The picture would have been a lot different. But yeah, obviously Friday was a night to forget. But there's some key things I wanted to talk to you about. And the first one was Aaron Nemane, because for me, quite comfortably one of the quickest players in the league. And I don't know if it's him being told not to do this or if it's just him just not having the confidence or belief. But it really frustrates me when you know that the player's in there to beat men with ease, with the pace that he's got on the ball. And for some reason, we're just not seeing it right now. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, whether you think, is it something that he's being told to do, or do you reckon it's just from a lack of confidence, a new manager coming in, new ideas?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, he is one that I've highlighted before that like has struggled a little bit, and I think what isn't helping him is the fact that he's got to play a full 90 every single game at the minute. And if you look back to last season, he'd be the one that Luke Williams would bring off like 60, 70 minutes every single game. And this like run of games, he hasn't been doing that. Well, obviously it's a new manager now, but there's this like sort of last 5 or 6. He went on a really good run. He's scoring quite a few goals by being in the right place at the right time. A little bit like Adam Chickson was last season. Similar sort of goals, being at the back post, that sort of thing. But what I think he's struggling with is the fact that if he is having a bit of a, he's not had the best game, or he gets quite tired because of all the actions that Aaron does. Like you say, the pace, it's quite explosive actions, and that can tear through your energy quite quickly. But we haven't got anyone to bring on. So Toby, I don't think he was on the bench on Friday, or if he was, we didn't bring him on. He's not featured for a little while now, has he? I don't think Toby was on the bench. And then Will Randall wasn't on the bench, definitely either. I think he's probably got another injury. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything on that. But the fact that he was in the squad and then he's dropped out of the squad again, it probably feels like he was getting back to fitness and is injured again. So I think we're probably going to talk about quite a few players. And I think the main issue is that if those players aren't playing well or not having their best game or are tired, we've got no option to sort of either switch it up or even a direct replacement. Because I know Toby isn't that different from Aaron. He's got really good pace. He's got a good delivery. But we haven't even got him to bring on at the minute. So it just feels a little bit like we're down to bare bones. So whoever isn't playing well, we can't take them out of the team to protect them because we've got no one to bring in.
No, 100%. I feel that's a good point you've made, to be fair, about him playing the full 90 every single week. I feel like that was always going to be a problem for us. Like, we started the season, we had a very small squad. Everyone knew that, and that was flagged right at the start. Even when we had a good run of form, we knew a few injuries would have changed our fortune in that department. Obviously, we lost Badge, Matty Palmer, and Kedwin, and look at where we are now. But ultimately, our recruitment. Okay, like, we recruited fairly well in January. We covered a few bases, but ultimately, the depth just has never been there this season, and you're starting to see that now. I feel it's tough to say because obviously it's Maynard's first 3 games, but picking the same players week in, week out, whether you're a team in form or a team not in form, as soon as you pick the same team week in, week in, week, the predictability of you just becomes more and more. Teams start working you out, and I feel like Gillingham works us out fairly well. Yeah, we went 1-0 up, but realistically, that was just from Jody being Jody, getting an assist, and Crowley having a moment of magic. After that, we just stopped playing completely, and I couldn't understand it. But another player I wanted to speak to you about was obviously Aidan Stone. Obviously, after the game on Friday, we saw what happened online, which first and foremost is don't really condone it. Like, first of all, like, atting the players online, like, no one's doing this on purpose. That's the problem. That I think that's what some people have to realise. No one's doing this on purpose. At the end of the day, I don't really see the value in atting the player. But again, if you think that's the right thing to do, then fair enough. And then ultimately, screenshotting and posting the messages didn't really help anything. But like, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Aidan Stone. I just want to get your thoughts on him, because I feel like anyone that you brought in the summer to play in golf for us this season would have had the same fortune. But I feel like sometimes there's a lot of harsh critics on Aidan, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on. I think that you made a really good point there. Whoever we brought in the summer was going to be onto a difficult run. I think there's 2 points I want to make based on that point. I think it's a really good point. The first one is, I think there's, unfortunately, within our fan base, we get players that we want to get in or managers we wanted in, and it sets the other player that comes in up for failure. So, for example, in the summer, we wanted James Belshaw. The fan base wanted James Belshaw in goal. If we'd have signed him and he made the same mistakes that Aidan has, I don't think the criticism would have been anywhere near as big. But I think the fact that we signed Aidan and it wasn't James Belshaw, I think it kind of set him up to fail before he'd even got started. It's a little bit like Stuart Maynard as well. With Neil Warnock, everyone you've seen comments now already going, we should have got Warnock in. There's a manager at Aberdeen that would have sorted this out, and I think it kind of sets them up for failure a little bit because we wanted a certain person in. It would have been a bit like if we'd not got Didsey. Say we'd not got Didsey and we'd just signed Dan Crowley. Dan Crowley probably would have got. I know he's done really well. I know he's done amazing, but he might not have had as many people straight behind him straight away because he would have thought this should have been Didsey. So I think that's one thing. And I think the second thing is you're right. Like no matter who we sign, the difficult thing with goalkeepers is that the way we want to play and the goalkeeper we want to recruit has to be good at certain things, mainly on the ball. And the keepers that are good on the ball, as well as being really good at the goalkeeping aspects, don't tend to be playing at League Two level. Like if they're good at both, they're going to be playing at a much higher level. So I think that we would have found it difficult no matter which goalkeeper we brought in. Maybe hindsight tells you we should have brought in a lone goalkeeper from an academy or something like that, but we didn't. I also think Aiden's confidence is just completely shot, and I think that's again there's a lot of contributing factors to that. I think the fact that we dropped him out of the team, I didn't agree with that decision at the time, and I stand by that. I don't think we should have dropped him to bring Slocum back in. I don't think that helped anyone in that situation. And then obviously the fan base are on his back, and like you say, people tagging him on Twitter. He's clearly quite active on there, so he obviously sees the comments. He's going to see the negativity. That's probably not helping his confidence either. And that's not me sitting here saying that we can't be critical. Of course we can be, and I think Aiden will know himself. Like you said, he's not doing it on purpose. I think he will be disappointed in his own performances, and I think that we have a right to say if we don't think, some people don't think he's the answer or the right person in goal. That's fine, but I think it's about the way that you say it, and I think some of the comments about him probably going too far. And to be honest with you, I think we probably should bring him out of the team to bring him out of the line of fire more than anything. I think that him dropping to the bench against Newport and bringing Ashby Hammond in will probably give him a bit of a break, because he's just getting, that game on Friday, to me, he was not the player we should be focusing on, because the third goal, yes, he probably should come out for the corner, but the other two goals, is there a lot he can do about it? Not overly, I don't think. I think there's other issues and other problems we need to look at. But unfortunately, he's the one that's been the scapegoat. And I just think maybe we should pull him out. Sorry, I've gone on a little bit there. I've gone on a bit of a tangent and a rant. But yeah, I just think it's a very complex situation with Aiden, because he's a new player at a club and he wants to prove himself, but it hasn't gone right for him.
It don't surprise me that you've just gone on a bit by there, because I see it all the time from you defending him, and I think it's right. I do think it's right, but you said there, like, let's take him out of the team. And there was a comment under our tweet yesterday that said, is it time to start giving players like Ashby Hammond a fair shot? Would you agree with that comment?
Yeah, I think you've got to. I think, yeah, as much as I was saying from an Aiden's own perspective, you take him out of the team, you also need to give players a chance, because otherwise what chance have they got? I think that's probably why Slocum was brought in the first place, was because, if he's not going to get a game after playing so well in the Cup, when is he going to get a game? And it's kind of a similar thing for Ashby Hammond. You kind of have to say to Ashby Hammond, how deflated will he be if he doesn't get a chance now? He's probably going to be thinking, same with a few of the players, a few of the fringe players, Sam Austin, for example, he needs to be given a chance. I think he's going to be a bit demoralised if we keep playing poorly and no one gets in the team. So I think we'll start to see changes because of that.
No, look, I 100% agree. I don't know if it would be the right thing to do in terms of like switching that much of the team up. I understand why Maynard went unchanged. If that's what he thinks his strongest 11 is, he's going to try and play that every week, which is fair enough. The only criticism I have of that is we look very short of ideas. We don't really look like we've got much of a plan A at the minute, never mind a plan B. And it's just starting to worry me a little bit now, because obviously we're heading into Newport on Tuesday night, another massively informed side, and then Wrexham at the weekend, and you just start to wonder, like, where's our fortunes going to change? But I guess there's another point I wanted to raise to you as well. I saw the Sky Bet League Two account. They tweeted earlier about Maka being the top goal scorer and Jody obviously being the top assister by 10. And for me, there's something that just doesn't process for me, how we're the team in 10th with the top assister and the top goal scorer. But do you think mentally, like, maybe the performances are dropping because there's so much of a reliability on these players to produce and perform, Do you reckon the rest of the team are starting to think like, oh, we just give the ball to these players and hope for the best, or is it, I don't know. Maybe this thing I just can't get my head around it because like we've got so many gifted players, and right now the fortunes just aren't clicking out. I don't understand it. I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. Like, how have we got the? It's not just those two as well. Crowley and McGoldrick as well. Like, have got so many goals and assists, and like, it seems ridiculous. Like the team that beat us on Friday has scored, I think, less. Those forward, or even those forwards scored more goals than that whole team had. I think probably Maka and Jody have probably got more goals together, or about the same amount. So like, it's just like ridiculous. But then you kind of have to think, oh, are those players getting so many goals and assists and stuff because of the way we set up? And is that like, is it too attacking? And we've seen that in terms of we're trying to be a little bit more defensive, and then you lose their attacking threat. So it's really tough. I mean, you're right. We shouldn't be in a position we are with the amount of talent going forwards that we do, but we are where we are, and like there's a reason for it. And I think everyone can see it. I think we just have to, like, you can question the standard of the defenders and the goalkeepers and whatnot, but I think we have too many attacking players. But having said that, to be fair, the goals that we conceded on Friday didn't really come from having players up the pitch and getting counted on. They were like from crosses, really, weren't they? So I don't know. It's an argument. What did you think of the goals? They weren't really from counter attacks.
This is the thing. Look, like the thing is with how we've improved in the main odd. The first two games, I agreed, we looked better defensively, and it looked like we took 2 steps forward. Friday night, we took 5 steps back, in my opinion. Just the manner of the goals we conceded, like headers at the back stick, that should never happen. First things first. Like for I don't know the striker's name off the top of my head, but big guy at the back stick. You shouldn't be jumping against someone half his height. That should not happen. It's almost criminal why it's happened. And then the second goals come from obviously a late arrival at the back post again. Well, this time that's Nemane and Jones have swapped sides. And personally, I know there's people that may agree, people that disagree. I don't think the wing back switching is working at all. And I think I understand that it was different. It was a different twist on things, different unpredictability and all that. But Nemane doesn't look comfortable on the left, and Jones out of his 18 assists has got 17 assists from the left. So I hope it stops changing, because the second goal on Friday, I'm not solely blaming that, but it was the wing backs were switched, and Jones didn't look very comfortable at the back stick playing on the right. And then the third goal, I mean, embarrassing, really. That's the only way you can put it. We've seen that. That's why I've said it looks like we took 5 steps back defensively, because we've seen that sort of goal scored against us so many times this season. It's not good enough. Like this second phase again, it's very similar to the one that Deeney scored against us for Forest Green, where it's just bouncing. I get our style. Our styles to play out from the back, do this, and like look controlled when you build up. In them situations, just please put your foot through the ball, because if someone makes the first contact with that and honestly puts their foot clean through that ball, we've probably got a better chance of starting an attack than we do trying to play it out. We look uncomfortable. We have done all season trying to do that. I'd rather just put your foot through it and then regroup. You look so much better defensively, and we'd cut out so many of these mistakes. So the 3 goals, easily preventable, like even positionally, and just in terms of just game management. Like at the point of that third goal, we're already 2-1 down. You can't afford to make another mistake. Just please put your foot through it, and then that goal doesn't happen. You're out. You're pushing up the pitch. You've got the opportunity to put pressure on. We didn't do it. We didn't clear it, and ultimately the game was done after that. We didn't look like scoring again at 2-1, so 3-1. We was never going to do it. But obviously, that's another. That's the last sort of like raise I wanted to bring across about Friday was the defence. And now, like I said just then, we've gone from making 2 progressive steps forward, the defence are taking 5 back, and we look very uncomfortable again at the back on Friday night. To be honest, I'm not sure what's happening. Obviously, it's no secret that the defence is the weakest part of our team. It's hard to ignore that fact when there's so many different tweets from so many different accounts that talk to you about how good, like, Macca's got 20 goals and Jody's got 18 assists, but we've conceded 57 times. And that is the sole reason we are in 10th. Because if we weren't, and by the way, for the record, I've seen a lot of tweets saying that we had 2 opportunities now to sort this out and we didn't. I agree with that. We tried 100%, and again, it ties back into the deeper problem, which is obviously it was impossible to fix what we needed to fix in January, but we could have at least been halfway there. Warner was a good signing, yes, but I do still feel like we could have done with at least one more. But look, I just want to get your thoughts on the defensive issues again, because for me, it does just, for some reason, it just, like, it's all good. It's all good highlighting the problems in like your interviews, etc. But we're not seeing much change, and we're getting to the point of the season now where if we don't see much change, we're just going to drift off into a very, very dull end to the season. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that, and that's not I'm not leveling this at the current management team or the previous management team or the fans or anything, but it's very easy for us to identify the problems. The problems are obvious, like you said. We've got so many goals scored, we've got so many goals against, so it's obvious that the issue is the defence. That's easy to identify. Anyone can identify that. In fact, you wouldn't even have to watch us play to know that, because you can look at the league table and say, well, they've conceded 57 goals. There's your issue. When you watch us play, that is exactly the issue as well. But it's finding those solutions to those. And I think we saw a little bit of that on Friday. And I think that's where we have to take a positive and some credit to the management team. They looked to change it up. I saw people were divided on the change. Some people were like, why have we changed things up? Other people saying we don't change enough. It's like you can't really win. And I think that's understandable when you're losing games. But they did change to a back 4. And we look better with the back 4. I think we created more chances and we looked more solid defensively. I know they had a couple of chances late on, to be fair. They hit the post twice in the same shot. So, they could have had more goals on the day. But I think that is something we'll see on Tuesday and moving forward, at least in the short term. I think we'll see a back 4. I think we've got to see a back 4. Whether we've got the personnel to do it or not, I don't know, because obviously it seems like Chickson's not been around. It seems like Randall's not available. Toby doesn't seem to be available. So a back 4 would probably be the same people. Maybe McCarvey might come in if he's fit at right back, but with the same personnel. So not that much will change, just the sort of position that they sort of line up in. And I think you're right, that's part of the issue, was January. And I was actually I had quite a lot of praise about the January window. But it's hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But those positive comments were made assuming that Colquitt and Jatta would be at least available pretty straight away, especially Colquitt. He's assumed he'd be available straight away. He's not even made the squad yet. And Jatta obviously hasn't made the squad yet. So unless we see them, we've got 2 games this week coming up. Unless we see either of them in the squad this week, that would then be, 4 games since signing both of them? And then not featured in any of them. Like that to me doesn't scream sensible business. Because January signings are kind of, because it's middle of the season, you kind of want them to be impacting here and now. Both of those signings feel a little bit like ones you'd make in the summer, where you can give them a pre-season. We haven't got time for a pre-season. We need them to be hitting the ground running. So, not to be too critical, but I do think January we didn't bring in enough players that are ready to go, because it looks like we've got so many injuries, and we've got players in the squad as well that we clearly don't want to use either. So it's pointless having 3-4 backups that aren't going to get on the pitch. What's the point of having them?
No, 100%. And this is why I try not to be too, like, I've got the utmost respect for every single player in this squad, because the majority, I'll say the majority, pretty much all of them have been super, like, to me, and I'd imagine that's the same with you as well. But you can have the utmost respect for them as people, but what I don't have the utmost respect for is people that we can't keep putting in these sort of like half-interested performances, which is what it does look like. And this is what I tweeted after the game. We just didn't look interested because, like I said, you can respect him as people, but what I don't respect is when we're selling out away ends, even with the awful away form that we have. A lot of the upcoming away fixtures have been sold out, and that's a lot of money. Like at a bare minimum, you're looking at £40 per person, and then with families as well on the day, it's a lot of money. And obviously, I know this is what you sign up as a football fan. You don't because of what you pay, you can't go and expect a victory. But what you can expect is players that are going to put in the performance for your football team. And at least if the result don't go your way, you want to look at them players and think, oh, they gave it everything. Recently, we haven't been able to say that. That's the truth. You know, we haven't made this podcast to lie. We told truth on this podcast, and that is the truth. Like, end of the day, if I know my father came with me on Friday night, he paid £20, and then he paid £20 to watch that. That performance alone, I think even for free, it would have been a waste of time. Never mind a waste of money. You know what I mean? So we're getting to a point in the season now where, and a few people have raised this to me as well. By the way, it's not just coming from me. I'm sort of, although I do believe it as well, I'm also like echoing what they think as well. Attendances will start to fall if this continues. It's as simple as that. Like the club had such a successful year last season. Obviously, a year ago today we beat Chesterfield away, and now we're talking like this on a podcast a year later. It just shows how quickly the sport can change. But at the end of the day, attendances are going to start dropping if this is how we're going to start. If this is how we're going to continue into the end of the season, we're not going to keep selling out away ends. You know, we're not going to have consistent 11,000 home attendances because if you're turning up week in, week out and watching a team that are struggling clearly, but not really showing any signs of improvement, which we haven't. That's the truth. The truth is 14 points from the last 15 games. There's not been any sign of improvement. And again, look, I'm not saying this is anyone's fault. Look, we've gone through a tough time, you know. We lost a man who obviously reunited the whole pride factor in the club. But ultimately, we just have to be better than what we've been. And that is the truth. And I'm not sure what you think about what I just said, but I stand by it as well because there's a lot of there's been so much talk of the attendances and how impressive they've been, but that's been because we've been attractive. You know, people have came and wanted to come back because of what they've seen. Now people are going to start coming in. You know, they'll see performances like Friday night and they'll be put off by coming. I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair comment and a fair observation, and I think the difficult thing is that it feels a little bit like now that it seems crazy to say it because obviously we're still only a few points outside the playoffs, and I don't want it to come across like we're being really negative and down. And look, we're all happy that we've got back to the Football League, and we're in a position, we're a new promoted team where we're challenging. But it comes back to that what you said. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde season. The first 15 games were brilliant, and we were getting brilliant performances, and then the last 15 games, you probably take out of there the win over Doncaster and Morecambe over the Christmas period. We looked brilliant, but outside of those two games, we haven't really looked in a 15-game period. We haven't really looked at it. Of course, there's the odd performance, but on the whole, we've not really looked at the races, and it's disappointing. And I can hear what you're saying. Look, I hope that the attendances don't dip too much, and I feel like I say, it sounds crazy to say this, but it almost feels like the season, if it carries on for the next few weeks, the season's pretty much over. It feels like it'll be go again next season. We're now sort of rebuilding, and I think that's kind of the way that the January business came across. I don't think there's a single signing we made in January. Maybe Jaden Warner and Ashby Hammond, obviously, because they're loans, but none of the signings, even Scott Robertson, who, by the way, I think has been really good so far. I was disappointed to see some criticism of him on Friday because I thought he was one of the bright sparks. But, even him signing and Jatta and Colkett, it doesn't feel like they were the signings made to hit the ground running. It feels like they're all signings for a long term, gets the summer and we'll reassess. But we were in a position in January where we weren't that far off the top three. So if we really invested in January, and we don't forget we got a lot of money for Luke Williams, so it's not like we didn't have any cash. If we reinvested heavily, we could have pushed on, and I do feel like we haven't pushed on. I'm not leveling that just at recruitment, because there's all sorts of reasons and contributing factors. But it's a weird state at the minute, because it feels weird to come on here and us two be talking about this when we're, only a few points off the playoffs, but it only feels like we're going in one direction at the moment because of the results. And it's not just results, it's performances as well. We can go for a poor patch of results, but if we're playing well, we know that the fortune is going to change. But unfortunately, there's been no indication, like you said, in the last 15 games, outside of those 2 games over Christmas, there's been no indication that this is going to turn around.
No, exactly that. You said it there as well. Look, obviously, for what we do in terms of our online stuff and the podcast, we know, end of the day, the better we play, the better interaction we're going to get. That's the standard. But the truth is, like, we can't just sit on that fence of, we won't speak about the bad things when the bad things are happening, and then just pray that the good times are around the corner again. Like, we couldn't come on this podcast today and act all positive and hope for a win on Tuesday night, because it just can't happen like that. End of the day, to do what we do and to enjoy the times that we do, we have to come on here and be honest. And that's the whole point of our podcast. We created this to tell zero lies. When we're going well, obviously we will talk well about the club, but the difference is now there's very little to be positive about at the minute, because like people have rightly said, we're quietly on relegation form. 14 points from 15 games. That's nowhere near acceptable. Yeah, okay, newly promoted side, but we're stronger than pretty much. There's not many teams in this division that have got a better squad than us. That's a fact. Yes, it's small, but the quality that we've got in there's no excuses for where we are, other than, obviously, okay, overusing a few players, but we've covered all that anyway. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, we couldn't, us two, doing what we do with the social media side of it and the podcast, we couldn't shy away. It's impossible for us to shy away from what's happening right now, because it's not a fair representation of what's happening. We couldn't come on here and speak. Well, obviously, first of all, congratulations to Jody for breaking the record, but we couldn't just speak about that for half an hour, because that's not a fair representation of what's happening right now. Yes, it's brilliant, but there's a much bigger picture to look at, and I feel like in the half an hour we've been on this recording right now, we've covered it well. So we'll leave that behind, and now we'll look ahead to Tuesday night. Obviously, I feel crazy for saying it, but I am travelling there, of course. But I always try and look at it as bad runs have got to come to an end soon. So, like, obviously, last season we had a good run, 25 games unbeaten, that came to an end. Hopefully, we don't go 25 games without a win, and then so on and so forth. But obviously, Newport, very informed team. I remember yesterday afternoon, I was watching the Gillette Soccer Saturday, and I saw they were 3-0 up in the first half. And to be honest, I thought, oh, here we go again. But I just want to get your thoughts on it, because obviously, okay, yeah, Newport obviously had a very good FA Cup tie against Man United, looked very good. And since then, they've been one of the most informed, if not, I'm not sure if it is the most informed team in the league, but they're definitely up there with one of them, and I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it feels a little bit typical. That's the game that we kind of would have to target as the easier game, but they're one of the most informed teams in the league. It just feels a little bit like everything's going against us at the minute. And I think that is another reality, is that I have to say that obviously we're being slightly more negative today, but we have just had 3 games against 3 of the toughest teams in the division. Mansfield, Barrow, and Gillingham. They're all in the playoff places or above. So that we have played 3 of the best teams in the league. So that you have to have that that caveat in there. And Newport, like, they're a really good team. They've surprised me. I think they're only 1 point behind us now, so like it's not an easy game, and we're away. What I will say is it's surprising to say that we're only 1 point ahead of them, considering how easy we made it look at home against them. Like we played them sort of off the park, from what I recall of that game, and they've got threats, and I think they can really trouble us. And I think they're confident, and I think that's the thing. They're going to be up for it. Their tails are going to be up, and we clearly are low on confidence, and they're going to be high on confidence. Will Evans for them is a fantastic footballer. He's got loads of goals this season. He's a great athlete. He was playing left wing back last year for them because of his athletic ability, but they've moved him up front this season, and he's been getting loads of goals. So he's definitely a player. If he plays, I'm assuming that he will. That he want to look out for. But yeah, I don't know what I know we're going to get into score prediction in a second, but I don't know what your thoughts are of it. How do you feel about making the trip there?
Look, the thing is, for me, win, lose or draw, I'll always be. We could have been turned over 7-0 on Friday night, and I'd still have been there on Tuesday because that's just how I do it. End of the day, I go there confident because I know what not if the Notts team that we're used to shows up, I know that we've got a very good chance of winning the game. And I don't think it's a million miles away. Like, yes, we've been on a bad run, but I know that this team's capable of turning it on if they want to turn it on. And the difference is if we do that on Tuesday night, we'll win the game. Obviously, all things considered, Newport very good at home, in form. But it goes back to the point I made originally before we started this conversation about the game on Tuesday. Was we've got a very good squad. You know, there's a lot of players in our squad that would walk into any side of this division, and that's not hard. That's not really hard to say with whilst you've got the league's top goal scorer and top assister, and players like Crowley, McGoldrick. I'd even put Baldwin in that category as well, for example, because I do think Baldwin has been progressively getting better. I know, obviously, not the whole defensive side of the game has really gone downhill as of Friday night. But I feel like Baldwin, there's a lot of clubs in this league that will take someone like Baldwin as well. But obviously, that's not the point I'm trying to make. This is Tuesday night we've got to look at, and you've asked me how I'm feeling. Obviously, ahead of travelling, I always feel confident. That's my problem because because then obviously when we lose, I just feel even more deflated. But I'll never stop having the belief in the squad because I know what we're capable of doing. You said it there. We turned this team over 3-0 at home and made it look very easy. Don't mean we're going to do. You've got to earn the right to do that every single time you step on a football pitch. And if we do that on Tuesday night, I don't see why we can't get the same result. Yes, they're in form, but when you've got a team like we have with the players and the quality that we do have, there's not many teams that can live with us. That's it. And I feel like that's why so many people are now getting so frustrated. And obviously there's different ways to handle the frustration. That I'm not blaming anyone. I think as a collective we have to be better. We can point fingers at the defence all you want, but the protection they have, that needs to be stronger. Like Friday night, the transition between the midfield, defence, and the forwards is just not there. And you can't just point fingers at the defence and say, "Oh, that's not good enough," because you got to look at all areas of the pitch. And we had chances on Friday night as well. We had chances and we didn't take them, so we can't just keep looking at the defence. But look, I'm confident. I'm always confident. Maybe that's my problem. I'm too confident. But look, whatever Knox turns up, it's either going to be the one that we've seen in the past 15 games that have only took 14 points, or we're going to get a Knox that want to turn the fortunes around and, really make this really cement. We need to start really cementing. If I still think we'll make the playoffs, whether that's a bold claim or not, I just know when we start putting a run together, which with this side that we have right now, that's not a million miles away again, because when we start to pick up form, we put runs together, we generally look like a really dominant side, and we've seen that already this season. Last season, obviously, we saw that, and I always refer back to last season. Yes, it's in the past, but people need to remember this. We've got a lot. The only player that left us from that team was Ruben, that played week in, week out. There's a large crop of their players that's still here. We know what they're capable of with a bit of belief. But now, obviously, you need the fans on your side, and now you have to earn that back. Now you can't just expect people to turn up, because there'll be people there on Newport, on Tuesday night that are expecting nothing. But you then have to play and earn the right to win them back on your side. And if we do that, we will be into a good end of the season. But obviously, that requires winning, and that requires putting a halt to this. Into this poor run of form. We need to start somewhere. Tuesday, you always have to look at your next game. Don't matter the opponent. When you want to run like this, you have to win somewhere. It could be Newport on Tuesday night, or we could be playing Man City or Liverpool. It wouldn't matter, because this run has to stop sooner rather than later, and the next win has to be in the next game. So for me, my score prediction for Tuesday night, and I don't know about you, I'm going to go 2-1 either way. I don't want to say we're going to win the game, but I do think we're capable of doing it, especially with what we've shown against them at home. It's a very similar Newport side to what we played at home. But then again, I know we're the informed side in the league. So I've kind of sat on the fence a little bit, and I'm sorry for a bit of a cop-out answer. But they're an informed side. They're a good side. They're very capable of winning this game. But I still believe, although we're on a bad run of form, a very good performance at Newport, and we'll win the game. So 2-1 either way. So what about you?
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I want to be positive myself. And quickly before I give you my score prediction, just wanted to build on a point you made there. I think it was really good. Is we can't just look at the defenders for the issues out of happening because, like you mentioned, the only player that left us last season is Ruben Rodriguez. But I do think we're starting to see how much we miss him in terms of on the ball quality. I don't think there's a huge amount of difference, if any, between him, McGoldrick, or him and Crowley. I think on the ball, the quality that those three have is all very similar. They're all excellent. They're all brilliant at creating chances or can take chances themselves. Crowley's got, I think he's got more goals than Ruben has, or at least from open play. Obviously, Ruben was a penalty taker last season, but open play, I think he's now got more than Ruben did. But it's the off the ball work that Ruben brought that we miss. Out of possession, he'd be the one that would lead the press. If he lost the ball, he'd work tirelessly to get it back. And I think we do miss that with Crowley and McGoldrick. Both without the ball, I don't think either of them are amazing. And I think that has caused issues, and that's not me being massively critical of them. It's just that's not their game. But the way we've assembled the team, we've got, the two behind the forward. I don't think anyone can criticise Macca's out of possession work, but the two behind the forward aren't the best at getting in the opposition's face and don't really win the ball back all that often. Don't cause a hell of a lot of high turnovers, and we miss that. That's one of the main things I think we miss. And with that in mind, I don't want to go into Tuesday too negative, but I was thinking 2-1 Newport as well. But I'm going to push that scoreline from my mind. I'm going to be more positive. Can I see us going there and winning? Absolutely, I can see it. But like you have as well, sit on the fence, I can also see us going there and playing like we did on Friday. And it's really difficult to predict how we're going to do it at the minute. So I'm going to go sit on the fence myself. I'm going to go 1-1 draw. Either team could win it. And to be fair, it's not just either team could win it. Either team could win it comfortably. If we turn up there, we could win it comfortably. But if we go there and play like we did on Friday night, and Newport are the team that are in form, then they could end up giving us a bit of a hiding as well. So it is very finely poised, and I think that's what makes the game. It's a massive game. Every game at the minute feels like a 6-pointer, doesn't it? And I think we're entering that part of the season now where these next 4 or 5 games are going to define our season because, like you said, we need to go on a run, but we can't leave it too late to go on a run because if we leave it too late, we'll be out of the race. So we do need a result, and I would say that Tuesday night would be a good time to start.
100% agree. And look, that sort of brings us to the end of the episode. Obviously, again, look, I think everyone anticipated this to be on the more negative side. Obviously, it's never nice to film something like this because you just feel like you're constantly going on about the negatives, but I feel like it'll be appreciated by everyone watching that we haven't just came on and turned the camera on and started talking positively about how, such and such are doing this and that. And, sometimes we'll have a bit of misfortune and eventually we'll start winning games again. So everyone just cheer up. No, that's not how it's been. We've been honest. We came on. We knew what we was going to talk about. And look, we can't, like I said previously, we can't shy away from it. This is the situation we're in right now. And to enjoy when we're back being successful and winning games and going on unbeaten streaks, you have to lift your head up and get through situations like we have now. So never nice to do, but again, you can't shy away from it, I guess. But obviously, guys, thank you for watching, and please honestly keep up the support of the podcast so far. Look, we've surpassed 200 subscribers now, and we're getting the core of over 400 views an episode. Again, people, so I think sometimes even we forget that we're still a newly founded podcast. With the 76th episode, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're building something very good here, and we're very happy for it. So obviously, thank you very much and keep supporting it. And Tom, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just that. Thank you so much for the support. We see all the comments and all the every time you like the video and subscribe, and obviously same for Spotify. Every time you follow or give us a rating on there, it really helps. And we really appreciate all the support. And we can only say that we're a little bit sorry if we seem a little bit flatter today or a little bit more down. Hopefully, in the next episode, we'll have a lot more to be upbeat about, and we'll be previewing the Wrexham game with a little bit more joy, hopefully.
Absolutely. But until then, we always leave with the same message. Thank you, obviously, for watching. But most importantly, come on, you pies. I love doing that.